All right, good afternoon, everyone. I've got 12:01, so for the sake of timeliness, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for all of you joining us. We're excited to talk to you a little bit about our welcoming you to the forest and your residential experience here at Wake Forest University. Again, for those of you that are on, this webinar is for our incoming first year students related to their housing process. So if we have any continuing students or transfers on, we're not going to be talking about your process during this webinar. So just make sure folks are in the right place. We're going to begin with some introductions from our team, and then we'll dive. Feel free to use the question and answer box as we go through the webinar. We'll have some team members monitoring that as we go, but we'll also have some time to address questions at the end. Shelby, you want to kick us off?
Hi, everyone. I'm Shelby Clark. I'm one of the assignments coordinators. So my role is to assist with any and all assignments related questions. And one of my main areas of focus is accommodations, which we'll touch on later in the webinar. Dana?
Hello, everyone. I'm the other assignments coordinator, and I can help with meal plan questions and adjustments. I help book meal plans and changes in the system, and that information gets forwarded to our friends in dining. I can also answer basic assignments questions that you might have.
Thanks, Shelby and Dana. Aaron?
I want to introduce Awida and Stephanie, who are operations assistants. Those will be the first people you'll talk to when you call our office or email us or walk in. So they're here to help and assist you with any initial questions. My name's Erin Schneller. I'm the operations manager, and so one of the big things is social media that I do, as well as ensuring our website is up to date.
Thanks, Aaron. Christy?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christy Eanes. I'm the assignments manager, and I supervise our assignments coordinators and oversee the assignments processes and any assignments questions you may have.
Thanks, Shel. And I'm Dr. Zach Blackman, everyone. I serve as the Director of Operations here for the office. I supervise all of those wonderful folks who just introduced themselves and all of our work related to assignments and operations for the residential experience here on campus. So as we get started, I'm going to give you a brief kind of overview of our office and what we do and why. Really, our philosophy and purpose is to be partners in our students' journey to create a home here at the university. We want our students to be invested in active parts of that creation, but we're here to be key partners with them along that journey. And in doing that, we really do focus on continuing the learning that occurs in the classroom throughout campus and bringing that into our communities so that our residents find deep investment and meaningful community here on campus. So briefly talk about our residency requirement as a university. This is a core Wake Forest expectation. Students are expected to live on campus with us for 6 semesters. So that's typically the first 3 years, but it is 6 semesters, not 3 years. That is expected to be completed consecutively minus any time away from the university. So if a student needs to take a leave of absence for a semester for some reason, that's fine, but you can't like hop in and out of the residency requirement. Students are given credit for time studying abroad, as long as that's through official Wake Forest study abroad. But credit is only given for fall and spring semesters. So while we do have some students that choose to live with us during the summer term, those are not awarded a housing credit. You'll hear us talk a lot probably throughout this webinar, and if you interact with us about housing credits, that's how we count the number of credits you have towards that residency requirement. So you need 6 credits to have the option to live off campus. Transfers, if again, not on, but just for everyone's awareness, they do receive a credit for their full-time semesters at a previous institution. One thing I will stress here, and Christy and Dana may touch on in some of their sections, an early release from the residency requirement should not be expected. While it does occur from time to time based on our ability to house all of our students, it should not be an expectation, and you should not make plans towards that until you are released from it in writing. Finally, that image you'll see at the bottom right of your screen, students, you will see that every time you log on the housing portal. And as you are awarded housing credits, it will change and show you how many you have. So there should never be a question about where you stand in relation to your completion of the residency requirement. If you feel like that number is wrong, you need to reach out to us as soon as possible to discuss it. But that will get updated typically around the 5th week of each semester. Once our official census date has passed, we award those credits for that semester. So I touched a little bit on the housing portal, and I'm not going to go too in detail here, but our housing portal, which you can access at go.wfu.edu/housing portal, is your one-stop shop for all things housing. This is a example of what that's going to look like. So you'll see, your name and information up here. Your contact information will appear. Again, we ask if any of that's incorrect, that you get that updated in Workday. We do pull most of our information from Workday. So you're not able to make updates to things like your contact information, your address, that kind of thing in our software. You'll make those directly in Workday, and then it flows over to us. Here's that residency requirement section that I mentioned that you'll see every time you log in. So for most of you, when you're logging in right now, this is what it's going to look like because you don't have any housing credits yet. In terms of our menu, you'll see a housing process. This is for any and everything related to housing. So academic year housing, summer housing, winter break housing, room changes, all of that you'll find under this housing process. Disability related accommodations are also there. You can request those at any time for the current semester or an upcoming semester. As you work through that process, you will get an overview of the process, and you'll also have access to download the form that you need for your provider. Under the meal plan section is where you do all things related to dining. So that's where you can increase or decrease your meal plan, where you select your meal plan, etc. Dana will touch on this, but currently you can increase or decrease your meal plan within our limits through August 1st. Under information update, you can update your FERPA settings for our office, so that lets us know who we can and cannot talk to about your housing or housing related charges or anything like that. You can access a proof of residency. This is a question we get a lot. So let's say you're trying to get a license in North Carolina, or you need it for voting in an upcoming election or any of that, or anything else that may come up during your time here. You can go on and download a proof of residency yourself. It's formatted, you can save it and provide that to whatever service needs it. We do have a link to our move in and move out page, so that link updates throughout the year to direct you to the appropriate section of our website. And then some of these other things here at the bottom, we're not going to worry about today. You'll get more information about those as you move in. So, Christy?
Hi, everyone. So we're going to discuss and talk about the overview of how first-year student assignments are done. All of our first-year students' application is open, and they should go in and complete their dining and housing application by July 1st. It's important for our students to be honest and think about how they might live on a college campus when they're answering their questions. Because we do use those questions and those answers to pair roommates based on the smoking answer, sleeping schedules, how they use their room, social or study space, how clean they are. We do not match students from the same home or state or country.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. I would quickly just add, we use this to make the best match we can for roommates. I do think it's important to note that, among the 7 questions we ask and the other factors that go into first-year assignments, it is not always likely that we're going to get you 100% match, but we get you the best match that we can.
So some expectations. We have 2 room types on South Campus for our first-year students. 90% are doubles and 10% are singles. And our room locations are 90% located on South Campus, and we do have a population of 10% on the quad. Students may indicate whether they prefer a single or not in their housing portal when they're answering their questions and their preferences. Almost always, we have more requests than we do available singles. So the single preference is just that, a preference, and not guaranteed. And students may not indicate any community, i.e. the building preference on South Campus or the quad. And our quad spaces for first-year students are almost 50-50 singles to doubles.
Thanks, Christy. Yeah, that's important to note for folks that, if you preference a single, you may get a single, but you could end up on the quad because that's where we have more singles. So it's just something to keep in mind, that there's some trade-off of location versus room type.
Meal plans. First and foremost, when you want to know more about our meal plans, you can learn more about them at dining.wfu.edu/meal plans. You can also find more answers to questions that you have around food allergies. Though we help manage your selection of meal plans, our dining services really does handle food services. So any specific questions you have about food should be directed towards them at that email address. All incoming students, including you, are assigned the base plan by default. You can make changes to that up until August the 1st, up or down. Between August 1st and September 30th, you can only increase your meal plan. Our meal plans have three components. The first of which is meal swipes. Meal swipes are designated amounts of meals at residential dining halls on campus. They can be used at the Pit, North Dining Hall, Hilltop Market, and Magnolia Room. Old Gold Swipes are pre-designated combo meals at all restaurants, retail, cafe, and coffee house locations. And finally, food dollars. They're like a gift card that you pay for food on campus. They're accepted at all dining halls, retail locations, cafes, coffee houses, restaurants, and convenience stores on campus.
And just to note, to follow up with that, the base plan is the minimum for a first-year student that they can have, so they can't go below the base meal plan. They can only increase.
Thanks, Christy. And yeah, and as Dana mentioned, you do have until September 30th to increase that, but after August 1st, you will not be able to decrease. So just keep that in mind. We do understand those deadlines are before you arrive on campus, but those are to enable the planning and service that our dining provider provides for you.
All right, so disability-related accommodations. So if you have a disability and require an accommodation, the first thing I would recommend is to look at our website. There's a lot of information on there that's very helpful, but it's just too much to really get into in this webinar. But your first real step would be to complete your request in the housing portal. There you answer just a couple of questions, and you're going to want to upload documentation from your medical provider. So your request is not complete until both your request and the documentation is submitted. From there, your request would be reviewed by a committee that's consisting of our office, Deacon Health, the Counseling Center, and the Center for Learning Access and Student Success, aka that's the class office. After the committee reviews, I would communicate with you the outcome of that review. Either a recommendation will have been made, or the committee may ask for additional documentation to continue with that interactive process. The priority deadline for these requests is July 1st. However, you can make a request at any time through your portal. But just please know that our ability to accommodate will be subject to availability after that date.
Thanks, Shelby.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about documentation for accommodations, one, I would begin by saying that we strongly encourage the use of our provider form. It helps make sure that your providers are answering the questions that we need answered in order to fully evaluate your request and can cut down on some of that back and forth follow up, asking for additional documentation, going back to the committee for review, etc. The important things that I've highlighted here on the screen are: what is the disability? What are the current limitations of that disability related to the housing environment? And then what specific or housing or dining accommodations is your provider recommending, and why are those necessary based on your disability? That's the crux of what that committee is looking at and wanting to understand. Just a couple things to understand again about the accommodation process. You as the student must articulate what you need based on your disability. Unlike some 504 plans and so forth in high school where there may have been like a list of boxes for you to check, that's not the way our accommodations work. You need to articulate what your need is. Similarly, your provider must support that and explain the why behind it. So you can't request one thing, you can't request X and your provider say you need Y, that's going to be out of alignment. Our accommodations process is for students with a disability. It is not a resolution for roommate conflicts, not liking the community you were assigned to, etc. A provider's recommendation for some accommodation does not automatically guarantee approval of that recommendation. And then lastly, this is something we talk a lot with folks about. We do not deny accommodation requests. You heard Shelby refer to that interactive process. That is an ongoing process for us, right? We may say, hey, based on the current documentation, there's nothing for us to recommend. Here's a question that we need more information on. We may say, the accommodation you requested isn't reasonable for XYZ reason. You're welcome to modify your request, etc. So we will continue that process with you. Shelby and I work very closely with students as they navigate that process, but we don't flat out ever tell you your accommodation was denied. So.
Alrighty. So some important dates. Our process is a little bit different, maybe from other universities, but on July 11th, students will find out which building they're living in. So you will not find out your roommate just yet, and we are unable to make any changes to those assignments at that time. By July 31st, though, by the end of the month, you'll be able to find out what room you've been assigned and if you have a roommate. And once again, we're not making any changes to those assignments. On August 15th or 16th, if you signed up for pre-orientation, you all get a move in a little bit early. And so we'll have emails that go out that let you know that you are approved for the 15th or you're approved for the 16th. So unless you receive one of those emails, you should not be planning to arrive on the 15th or the 16th. But our big new student move-in is August 20th, which is a Wednesday. And so we know that there's tons of people coming to campus. And so we do give you all a document that lets you know, like, if you're on the first floor of Johnson Hall, maybe arrive between like 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. And so we give that to kind of stagger our folks who arrive. But those are kind of our key dates. And so just keep an eye out. Your Wake email is the best spot to find all the information. And that's where all that information will go once it's been released.
Thanks, Aaron. I would just echo again, once assignments come out, we don't make changes to those. So please, focus on trying to get to know your roommate, trying to learn about the community you've been assigned to, etc., versus trying to contact us to discuss a change, because it won't be.
And I will also mention that we send a lot of emails with lots of information to the Wake Forest email address for our students. So sometimes that those emails kind of get pushed to spam or junk mail. So checking your spam or junk mail frequently when there's a scheduled email or you're looking for an email is a good idea.
Yeah, so what will be in your room? So if you all had a chance to come do a campus tour, you may have seen our tour room, but you all do get extra long twin beds. And so make sure when you're buying stuff that it's the extra long version. You do get a dresser, closet, or wardrobe, kind of depending on the building. It depends whether or not it's a wardrobe versus a closet. Everyone gets a desk and a chair, and then when you move in and come into the Coliseum, you do get a recycling tote that our Office of Sustainability provides, but we do not provide trash cans. There are trash cans within the residence halls, and so that'll be where you'll probably dispose of those items. And you do get a micro fridge, and so that's the combination where there's microwave on top, there's a freezer, and a fridge section. So super nice to be able to have that in your space already. You don't need to bring your own fridge. We got you covered. Um, if you want to learn more about, what those spaces look like, or what's kind of the like dimensions of things, feel free to visit our website. All that information can be found there. On July 31st or before then, when you receive your room assignment, there is a link to kind of a roomy 3D model of your space. So you can kind of get an understanding of, if you're trying to think about a bookcase you want to bring or a chair, you kind of get a sense of what your space looks like. For doubles, we strongly encourage talking to your roommate, just so that not everyone's bringing, multiple chairs, multiple shelving units, things like that. You do have access to a community fridge and kitchen space, and so there's full size appliances. So the community fridge, there's the microwave, there's an oven that you can use. We don't stock that. Our department does not stock that, but you'll bring your own pots and pans and whatever stuff you want to cook, and that's definitely a great space to bond with others, make some yummy food if you want to, take a break from the dining hall for a night.
Cool. I'm going to pause for a second to answer some of the questions that are coming in about things in rooms. So this is a great overview of what will be in your room. On our website, we also have a link to a packing list of things that we would encourage you to consider bringing. So I know some were asking, like, how do we know what do we need to bring? Similarly, questions about how do you mail order things, etc. You should have received an email from us earlier this week about partnership with Swaku, who does some room essentials that you can order. Those will be delivered to campus prior to your arrival. You'll also get an email from us over the summer in partnership with our partners in mail services about how mail works on campus and when you can begin shipping things to your mailbox number on campus. One thing to note is that all of those items will go to our mail center in Benson, and you will have to pick them up during move-in weekend, which can be a pretty busy and kind of chaotic time. So in some ways, I would encourage folks to think about, do you need to ship something here, or is it something you can wait and see, and purchase when you're in Winston? Again, we have Target, Walmart, Costco, Sam's, you name it, we pretty much have it that you could go shop at here in town as well. But all items shipped to campus will go to the mailroom, and you'll have to go pick them up from there and then get them to your building. There was a question about AC in the chat. All of our buildings have air conditioning and heat. They have thermostats in room that allow you to adjust within a certain range of temperatures. So typically that's going to be like between 65 and 75. What mode our buildings are in, heat, neutral, or AC, depends on the outside temperature on campus and kind of what the overall system is in. So, if you're in 201, you can't be getting AC while the room next door is getting heat. That's determined kind of at a centralized function. So there's more information on our website as well if you want to get more into that. So sorry, Aaron.
No, yeah, you're fine. The biggest thing too, is we encourage you to explore our website. I've worked really hard with my team to make sure as much information is on there that you need. So like Zach had mentioned, the packing list. There's different stuff about the buildings, the move-in process, things like that. It's all there. So a lot of the common questions can be found there. But if you do end up contacting our office, we really encourage you to have your ID number ready, just so that's kind of easier to type in and look up your information when we kind of like follow up about the question that you're having. We highly encourage email us from your Wake email. and let us know what your questions are. But of course, like I said, we can also talk over the phone and happy during our business hours.
So we're gonna pause now and respond to questions. So feel free to drop things in the Q&A if you have them, and we'll take a couple minutes and respond to those based on the best person. I did see a question about medication and refrigeration. You know best what the kind of environment your child's medication might need. Certainly, you could use the shared fridge for that. We do see some students, that's when they may choose to bring their own individual fridge to just keep their medicine in. And then if you have something that needs very specific kind of temperature control, that would be a conversation we want to have with Deacon Health about whether they could store that medication or not. I can't answer that for them. Sure. So this is a question we always get a lot about: when are things going to come out? We say by July 31st is when you will get roommates and so forth. If things are ready before then and we feel comfortable, might you get them before that date? Sure. I can't give you a promise of that. You will get them by July 31st. You will get your buildings by July 11th. No, so I've seen a couple people ask about beds and lifting those. So our beds can go up to 36 inches off the floor the way the bed is made. You can use up to 18 inches of additional bed risers, the one that kind of look like cones that you may have seen at your local Target, Walmart, etc., around college season. We do not allow for beds to be lofted in our facilities. So that, what is that, 36, 46, 54 inches is as high as our beds are allowed to go. Yeah, certainly folks asking about restrictions for items that can be mailed, I would encourage you to consult with the mail services website or to give them a call if you have specific questions. Again, I will note that they get slammed at the start of a semester, so that is not meant to be a solution for like ship everything to campus, right? So. Yeah, questions about early arrivals for athletes or pre-orientation, etc. Anyone that's moving in after August 11th will be moving into their academic year housing. So you will not move into a temporary space and then have to relocate. If by some chance you're a student athlete who may have like an August 9th report date, you may be moving into a temporary space and then relocating. But if you're arriving after August 11th, so everyone doing pre-orientation on, you'll be moving into your academic year space.
And for early arrivals, students are welcome, if they are approved to move in early during that early arrival weekend, or have the ability to move in phases. They can move in for their early arrival program into their fall space, and then on the 20th, parents, families bring the rest of their items down at that time if that's something that they wanted to consider.
Yeah, great point, Christy. That's really up to you on how you want to approach that arrival. Questions about final cost for room and meal plans. So we will send over here in the next couple weeks for all of our incoming students. You will have a base meal plan charge unless you've already gone on and changed your meal plan. Then you'll have whatever you selected, and you will have an estimated housing charge, which is for the double rate. If you were assigned to a single, when we release assignments at the end of July, you will get an updated charge for the single rate. So it will not be until assignments come out that your bill will be finalized with your actual housing cost. Your meal plans update as you change them, but housing costs won't update until we release assignments. That all goes on the student account in Workday, just like tuition, etc. So. Hanging things on walls, we firmly recommend command strips and other 3M products. You know, anything that is not going to damage the wall when you try to remove it. So. Single versus double rates are available on our website. And yes, I see a question. There is an RA on each floor. Typically, in most of our South Campus communities, there's 2 per floor. It just differs a little bit depending on the layout of the building. Correct, to answer somebody's question about beds. So our bed, the bed you get from us can go up to 36 inches off the floor. That gives you around 33, 34 inches of storage space. You can use up to 18 inches of cone risers in addition to that. So I'd say you can estimate probably having around 50 inches of storage space available if you were to use 18 inches of risers.
And those risers are something that you would have to purchase on your own outside of Wake Forest.
Great question. Yes, students should already have their Wake Forest email. If they've been admitted, they should have gotten those instructions from admissions on how to set up and access their account. If they haven't, they'll need to follow up with admissions on that. Meal plans can be changed between the 2 semesters. So, if you want to try the base plan for fall, and then once we assign spring meal plans, you'll get an email from Christy or Dana as well to say that spring meal plans have been assigned, and you can start adjusting those, and you can make an adjustment for second semester. No bringing your own mattress. Our beds include a mattress. Yeah, so someone asked about seeing dimensions, and I know several folks have asked about dimensions of things. So that's when students get their room assignments, the Roomie link that they'll be able to access will have great measurement tools for the furniture that's in the room, but also for the size of the room, windows, etc. So that's super helpful in terms of planning. I see some questions about like bringing your own things, etc. You are welcome. I'm not going to say you can bring anything. You are welcome to bring some things. Like the specific question is about a desk chair. Sure, you can bring your own desk chair, but the desk chair we provide has to stay in the room. So we will not remove and store anything. You cannot remove and store something somewhere else. So generally speaking, I don't encourage folks to bring extra furniture. All of our rooms do have blinds. They do not have any type of curtain or window covering. So if that's something you want to do decoratively, that's something you would need to explore with, again, some type of like 3M hook or something like that. But all of our rooms do have adjustable and open and close blinds. What else? Mattress toppers. Mattress toppers are a sensitive subject. They are allowed. We do not recommend the kind of foam egg crate type mattress toppers that you may have seen many places. So if you're going to get a mattress topper, we strongly encourage it being something that is enclosed, right? So a gel one that has a full liner around it or something like that, not the kind of open, exposed kind of crate types foam. So.
Students and families moving in for pre-orientation programs, when they check in and receive their key, will get temporary parking passes for vehicles that are helping them move in, to let our staff and campus know that you are helping someone move in for orientation.
A good question about furniture. So for most of our first year communities, I mean, Building assignment is not going to change the fact that you get a desk chair, a bed, and a dresser. Most of our first year communities, you're going to get a wardrobe as an individual student versus a closet, but in some you may have a closet per student instead of a wardrobe. But that's really the only change. Everything else is standard. Yeah, lots of questions about parking. So again, we will give you parking passes for move-in, on move-in day and pre-orientation move-in. We have our great partners in University Police and Campus Security that help keep people moving and directed to where they need to be. And then students have a little bit of flexibility during orientation in terms of the general parking lots on campus, but by the time classes start, students have to be parking where they're supposed to be parked. So whatever, if they have a permit, that's where they need to be parked. If they don't have a permit, then they don't need to be parked beginning the first day of classes.
There is a physical key that will be issued to the students for their residence hall room, for their bedroom, and they will have a student ID that allows them access to their building and has their meal plan on it.
Folks that are participating in pre-orientation, no, you don't need to let us know anything. We get that information directly from pre-orientation in terms of the students who have both been accepted and paid. And we will send out lots of move-in information for you all as we get closer to August. So please don't stress that like you have to have all your move-in questions answered now. There was a question about adding someone else for roommate notifications, etc. Students will be notified at their Wake Forest email. That's how we communicate with students, and we will only communicate with students. So they will need to be checking that throughout the summer to know when their housing assignments come out, their roommate's been released, etc. Often they will be directed to then go back to our housing portal to find that information. All right.
Students will need to bring a small trash can for their rooms. We do have trash, recycle, cardboard receptacles on the halls or in the lounge lobby areas of the buildings. But they will need to bring a small trash can for their bedrooms. They are provided a small recycle tote from the Office of Sustainability upon check-in, so they can use that in their room.
Great. Give us just a moment. We're going to keep checking some of these and make sure. There was a question about sinks being in all the rooms. There are sinks in most of our first year communities, but not all. So again, when your student gets their individual assignment, they'll want to go on and look and see whether their room is in a building that has a sink in the room or it has additional sinks on the floor. Pre-orientation students do not get their assignment earlier. They get those on July 1st, just like everyone. Athletes, that will depend heavily on your sport. So you'll get a report date from your coach. You'll also get confirmation of your move-in date from our office, but that is not a one-for-one answer. A couple people have asked this, so just to clarify about meal plans. You can change from fall to spring, and that can be up or down within the limits for a first-year student. So as Christy mentioned earlier, you can only go down to the base plan. So if that's what you had for the fall, that's what we're going to give you for the spring. There's nowhere down to go. So there aren't the question about bed risers and bed. So our bed is a headboard and a footboard that allow you to adjust the bed, and our partners and facilities to adjust the bed up to 36 inches off the floor. You would then use the cone risers on the bottom of that to get the additional height. All right, I think we have answered a lot. Again, I'm going to remind folks that our website, the newstudents.wfu.edu website, are great resources for you as you continue planning. I'm going to answer one more question. Laundry is a great question. Yes, there are laundry facilities in each of our buildings. It looks a little bit different from building to building. Typically, it's one large laundry room for the building. Laundry is free here, so students just need to bring their own detergent, dryer sheets, whatever it is that they want to use. Parents that are on, if your child has never done a load of laundry, take some time this summer to teach them to avoid them damaging their clothes when they get here. But yes, they do have access to laundry for free. Thank you all for your time and great questions. Again, feel free to follow up with us at housing@wfu.edu. If you have anything, we will post a recording of this to our website. And thank you all for your time and have a great day.